What is up, guys? This is the Casual Wrestling Podcast, where each and every week I, the Notorious Nerdy D, break down everything you need to know as a casual wrestling fan. The show now posts every Wednesday weekly on YouTube and podcast networks. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date with all of the cool wrestling content we post. Housekeeping for the week. I am loving the new Discord. I fought it for so long. I think I fought against having a Discord for the community. I don't know why. I just always felt like Discord was unorganized. And then I actually took the time to sit down, kind of see what it was. And I think it's what I was always looking for. It's what I imagined when I made the Patreon. It's what I imagined the Patreon was going to end up being. And the Patreon kind of fought back against what I really wanted to do. And that was just like to start conversation, to get people to conversate about really everything I like to like podcast about is to start conversation. So like the Nerdy D show and the videos about like Girl Scout cookies and things like that, it's all just to create fun conversation. And the same with this wrestling show, it's meant to inspire a back and forth where we can learn from each other. So I absolutely love the Discord, and I wanted to give a shout out to a couple people who are currently in the Discord, and we're having a lot of fun going back and forth. We Too Deep. Who else we have here? Cybeast. We have J by Proxy. We have Chris LGRSM. I know Ian the Noobs Newberry is in there. T Squire's in there. That's all I see right now. I'll shout out more next week, but I'm loving it. So if you're not in the Discord yet, make sure the link will be in the description of this video. Join the Discord, and it's just kind of a fun place. It's relaxed. There's no negativity. Even if somebody says something, we just kind of go back and forth and work it out. So absolutely loving that. I'm absolutely loving the Discord. So let's jump right in. Topic number 1 today for the Casual Wrestling Podcast is I after watching Friday Night SmackDown, after watching last week's Monday Night Raw, after watching this week's Monday Night Raw, I've identified something for WWE. And I don't think that I'm the only person to identify this. I don't think that, I'm the Sherlock Holmes here, but I think that it's something that has to be said out loud. WWE has a Cody Rhodes problem. And that's almost asinine to say out loud, because 7 months ago, Cody Rhodes was the hottest thing in all of professional wrestling. And now here we are, a month away from WrestleMania, and I have to say out loud, I think that WWE has a Cody Rhodes problem. And let's start by answering this question. Is Cody Rhodes getting the cheers and the welcoming kind of feedback from the fans that WWE was expecting post Royal Rumble? I don't think so. I think that they thought having Cody come in at number 30 in the Royal Rumble, that the fans were just going to sort of embrace him the way they embraced him when he made his triumphant return to WWE at WrestleMania last year. But I think the problem is situations change, right? Situations are all based on the situation that you're currently in. I don't think this is Cody Rhodes' fault by any means. I think Cody Rhodes is the victim of circumstance here, right? Cody Rhodes happened to get injured. Cody Rhodes had to take 6 months off. Cody Rhodes had to come back at the Royal Rumble to a spoiled surprise return. They announced early. They did these little documentaries leading up to the Royal Rumble, explaining his rehab and how he was coming back better. So we all knew what to expect. There was no surprise. Cody comes back. He wins the Royal Rumble, and we're thrust into this storyline of Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes for the Universal Undisputed WWE Championship. But if you want to blame somebody, if you're just the type of person like me who needs to point the finger at somebody and blame somebody for the situation we're in right now, blame Sami Zayn. Blame Sami Zayn for organically creating a situation where the fans want to embrace him more than they want to embrace Cody Rhodes. And by result of this has created a certain amount of resentment for Cody Rhodes for taking what could have been a spectacular main event away from Sami Zayn. That's just the truth. I mean, you can argue all you want, but that is the truth. You can argue that Sami Zayn is not a main event guy. Yeah, I'll argue that against you. But here's the problem. That match at Elimination Chamber felt like it had all the potential in the world to be a WrestleMania main event. It had that kind of energy. Now, the second question I have to ask is, did the face-to-face between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns on Friday Night SmackDown, did that do what it needed to do to sell the story heading into WrestleMania? Short answer for me, no. I don't think it did. It's all fine, right? Any other premium live event, that's a fine way to set it up. But this is WrestleMania. This is your closeout match. This is the main event of the show. And at this point, the running joke around basically all content creators and most casual fans in IWC, the running joke is that this story has become more about Cody Rhodes needing to justify something to his father than it has become about the actual head of the table. Your longest ever undisputed Universal Champion, 1,000 days, whatever, however many days it's been with Roman Reigns, they've pivoted completely away from the Roman Reigns story, and they are making this 100% about a story based on Cody Rhodes' destiny. And I can tell you something about stories in wrestling that are about destiny. They fall flat in the end. Because the problem is wrestling just doesn't end when somebody gets to the top of that mountain. So let's say Cody Rhodes goes into WrestleMania and he beats Roman Reigns and he wins the title. He still has to show up Monday night and continue to captivate audiences after he's kind of reached the pinnacle of this like destiny storyline, right? I have to finish the story. That's what this match is being predicated on, right? Is Cody Rhodes has to finish his story. And the problem is Cody Rhodes is the B-side of this match. You can argue whatever you want, but you cannot argue. Roman Reigns is the A side of the card. He is the Floyd Mayweather. He is the John Jones, the Conor McGregor. He is the one that people pay to come and see. Cody Rhodes may be building towards that, but right now, in this situation, Cody Rhodes is the B side of the card. So to try to tell the story of the B side of the card, he's not in a place to be the underdog. So you can't really sell him as an underdog, but you're trying to sell this as a story of destiny, right? And we're doing this thing where now week in and week out, we bring up Dusty Rhodes. And we've got Roman Reigns out here doing Dusty Rhodes impressions, which is very out of character for Roman Reigns and the head of the table. And we've got Cody coming out here trying to convince us that this is destiny. We've got Paul Heyman, and we've got this weird fine line that we're trying to walk where nobody wants to be disrespectful to Dusty Rhodes, which is 100% understandable, but they're trying to intertwine Dusty into this story and make it feel almost like Dusty Rhodes was a little bit of a bad dad because he didn't talk about Cody Rhodes. This is a very weird way to build up to your main event of WrestleMania. Like, this is okay if this is just a match on the card, but this is the match that is going to close out WrestleMania, and this is the storyline that we're going with. And it's hard for me to wrap my head around all this when you still have in the background Sami Zayn, which is the more entertaining story at this point. And Roman's a little preoccupied with that, but he's still got to pretend like this Cody Rhodes thing is a big deal. The Cody Rhodes Roman Reigns match should feel like the biggest thing going into WrestleMania, and it kind of feels a little bit like a sideshow. And that begs me to ask everybody this question. And somebody answer this for me. Are we 100% positive that Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns is really the correct match to close out WrestleMania? Like, does this match have will this match have a bigger impact on wrestling this year than the match that Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns had at Elimination Chamber? I'm not sold that the crowd is going to be more invested in this main event than they were in the Elimination Chamber main event. I'm not sold on that. There's a piece of me that thinks maybe you have the Usos and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens close out night 2. I mean, I know that's kind of a blasphemous statement, but I just don't know that with the way they're selling me right now, and don't give me there's still 3 weeks. You should have had this wrapped up and sold to your fans 3 months in advance. The night Cody Rhodes won the Royal Rumble, the build should have begun to get Roman and Cody and the hype train going, and it's just not there. So I don't think it's completely insane to think that this may fall flat as a main event, and there may be other matches on that card that are more worthy to close out the show. Now, I'm saying probably more than likely they can figure out some semblance of a build and get us to where we end the show with Roman and Cody, and we at least leave amused, right? But then when I look at this card, who main events night 1? Like, what match is main eventing night 1? Where do Sammy and the Usos and Kevin Owens all fit into this card? Because Roman Reigns is so tied into that match and the outcome of that match. Where does that fit? The bigger question is, do we really need 2 nights of WrestleMania? Like, I understand there was a point in time where it felt like we could make a weekend event out of this, but do we need 2 balanced nights of WrestleMania? I don't think we do. I think we'd be fine going back to just 1 solid night. I think that when you look at the card, you could, and I'm going to do this in just a little bit, but you could blend or kind of chop this card up and get 1 really good night out of it. But the fact that we're trying to do 2 nights, I think is going to water down both of those nights. Now, another question I want to bring up for conversation here is, what about this WrestleMania feels Hollywood? Like, what about WrestleMania 39 is screaming, this is Hollywood? Because it usually, I mean, to me, it felt like that we were on a path 3 months ago with The Rock possibly showing up. We were thinking Bad Bunny might be there. There was a lot of like celebrity speculation. And now we're 3 weeks out from WrestleMania, and there's nothing Hollywood about it. Like, they would be better at this point trying to transition and pivot and just call this WrestleMania Los Angeles, because there is nothing, absolutely nothing Hollywood about this WrestleMania. You have The Miz is the host of WrestleMania. The Miz is not from Hollywood, guys. The Miz was born in Ohio, and they can sell him as a celebrity all they want, but he's not a West Coast celebrity. That's not who The Miz is. Not, you know, the Miz does not have a West Coast buzz that celebrities are paying attention to, right? And we don't have The Rock, so we don't have the biggest, celebrity athlete of all time, actor, whatever you want to call The Rock. We don't have him in WrestleMania. So we don't have that part of Hollywood, which is really what I think. I mean, to be honest, I think that the whole branding of this WrestleMania was surrounding The Rock showing up. Last week, I cut a clip from the episode that said basically that Triple H was panicking because The Rock is not at WrestleMania. And everybody took that as me saying that WrestleMania will fail without The Rock. It's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is you spent the last 365 days teasing it. You built an entire WrestleMania on the theme of Hollywood. Don't try to make me believe that Triple H was not banking on The Rock showing up. Don't try to make me believe that up until maybe a week before the Royal Rumble, Triple H wasn't on the phone with The Rock's people saying, is he in or is he not? Like, in any form or fashion, can we get him to commit to WrestleMania? There are articles and reports about the WWE saying, like, we're creating contingency plans based on if The Rock doesn't show up. There was a point in time we thought we were getting Cena, The Rock, Stone Cold. And now when you look at this card, there's just nothing. There's no celebrity inclusion outside of Logan Paul, who once again is not a West Coast Hollywood celebrity. So there's nothing about WrestleMania 39 that screams Hollywood. Now, let's move on to something a little different here as we move into WrestleMania 39, about 3 weeks to go. A question that I've asked myself over and over again is, how did Triple H drop the ball with the women's tag team division? Because if you remember, when Triple H took over and Stephanie was CEO or COO or whatever the three letters is that she was given, there was this belief that there's going to be a resurgence of the women's division in WWE because Stephanie McMahon is a champion of the women's division and Triple H understands the women's division. And here we are. Here we are 3 weeks out from WrestleMania, and someone explained to me how it makes sense that we're doing a triple threat tag team match with the tag team titles involved but not being contested. At least go under the Freebird rules and say that, you know what? We're going to allow trios to win the duo tag teams in the women's division. So as far as we're concerned, Trish, Lita, and Becky are all tag team champions. They all hold the belts. They're a trio under the Freebird rules. On the other side, we have Damage Control. So that means that Bayley, Io, and Dakota, they all hold the tag team championships. And whoever wins this match walks away as the tag team champions with the Freebird rule, and they'll be able to defend it and do whatever they want. But how do they drop the ball on this? How are we 3 weeks out from WrestleMania and this is the match that we booked? Question is Ronda Rousey injured? Because that, to me, that is the only acceptable answer as to why Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler are not fighting for the tag team championships at WrestleMania. There's no other explanation to me. And I know just be patient. It's going to happen somewhere. I hate this idea of being patient in professional wrestling because things have a shelf life. The pan is only hot for so long. And so with Ronda and Shayna, they have momentum right now. I think the fans enjoy seeing them together. Your tag team title division is in complete fucking shambles. So Ronda Rousey is the perfect name to hitch that to. Let Ronda and Shayna just destroy every other woman for the next 365 years and elevate those titles so that somebody can come in and beat them maybe at next year's WrestleMania and make it a big deal. But right now, those titles mean absolutely dog shit. And the fact that those titles are inside of a triple threat tag team match, it makes absolutely no sense to me. Unless Ronda Rousey's injured, then this is a 100% audible. And this just goes to show that WrestleMania 39 is not an event that was planned 6 months in advance. It's an event that is a complete audible where they are just trying to save things as we get closer to the event. Now, another question I have is, and this is funny because I've been attacked in the last couple weeks for talking about John Cena and talking about The Rock and talking about how WrestleMania does need those kind of names to elevate it to kind of another status level, right? But I hear everybody complaining and everybody coming after me about The Rock and about John Cena. But where is the outrage that in the women's division right now, outside of the two title matches, this is the only other women's match on the card, and it features two 47-year-old women who have had zero involvement with wrestling for the last 5-10 years? Where's the outrage for that? Where's the outrage for Lita and Trish Stratus coming back and taking 2 spots away from 2 people who could be competing at WrestleMania? Let's be real here. Trish Stratus and Lita are not here for the long haul. This was just to put some big names on the WrestleMania card. This is what you accuse when I talk about John Cena and The Rock. Lita and Trish Stratus are actually doing that. They're just here for the big event, and then they're going to disappear. Lita's not sticking around. This is not a long-term title run for Lita and Becky Lynch. Lita just doesn't have that kind of gas left in the tank. Like, I think the plan is, even if Ronda's hurt, the plan is after WrestleMania for Ronda and Shayna, it's got to be for them to win the tag team titles. But where is the outrage? Where is the complaint for? And it's not going to come from me, because I'm okay with this idea that The Rock comes back. I'm okay with the idea that Cena comes back. I'm okay with the idea that Lita and Trish Stratus come back. But I just think all these other people who want to be kind of vengeful when I say like Cena this or The Rock that, where the fuck is the outrage when you talk about someone like Trish and Lita, who are 47 years old and really don't have any business taking two spots from two women who could be featured in a match at WrestleMania? So let's move on. Let's talk about John Cena, because John Cena returned on Monday Night Raw and he cut a promo, a hell of a promo. John Cena still got it, man. Like the chant, "You still got it," it gets thrown around way too often in wrestling, and you deserve it. But like when John Cena grabbed that microphone and he started cutting his promo on Austin Theory, which, you know, we got to talk about that in just a second, but let's talk about Cena first. He still got it. Like, he's still the man. And it just kind of lends itself to, Cena was just a little oversaturated for a minute, that we all kind of got tired of him. But seeing Cena come back, it just shows this glaring divide and this glaring distance between Cena and the rest of professional wrestling. How good he is on a microphone, how he can control a promo, how he can control a crowd. And so we have to talk about, was that John Cena promo against Austin Theory, was that a shoot? It felt a little shooty to me. And it seems like Cena tends to get in and kind of give these young guys a lesson when he gets in there. And guys like Roman Reigns, who got that lesson and elevated himself, you know, they benefit from that. But Theory looked a little uncomfortable in that ring. It really looked to me like Theory didn't like the things that John Cena was saying. And a lot of the things that John Cena was saying, those are things I've been saying for a long time that people don't like to hear. People don't want to hear the flaws of Austin Theory. I get it, right? Austin Theory is this pretty package of a WWE wrestler. It looks like everything is there. And when Theory first came to the main roster, I even was kind of jaded by this idea that he's the real deal. The problem is something's not connecting. And what I can tell you what I think the problem is. I think the problem is removing the phone and those things that made him a dislikable bad guy. That didn't make sense to me. If you were going to remove all of the fluff that made Austin Theory unlikable, he should have been a babyface. But instead, you kept him as this generic heel who he's uninteresting at this point. He's got a look. Yeah, he's athletic. He's decent on a microphone. He's not great. And Cena exposed that. Like, Cena exposed the distance between a young Austin Theory and an experienced John Cena. And not saying that like that's a one-to-one comparison, but I just think that when you see those two in the ring together, everything that John Cena said is absolutely true. That winning this match for Austin Theory, that's dangerous, because he has to show up the next night and continue to entertain without the crutch of John Cena. And if you lose the match, which you assume he's not going to, but if he loses the match, then what is, that just completely stalls out everything he's done for the last year and a half. The other question that I kind of take away after watching John Cena in the ring and him come back and do what he did, the question I have to ask is, and this is a serious question, this isn't me, playing a game, is who in the WWE right now can cut an A+ promo the way John Cena does? And when I say A+ promo, I'm not talking about something that's filled with like gimmicky punchlines. I'm talking about literally being able to talk face to face with another person and create tension and create excitement and create, just like promotion going forward. Is there anybody in WWE right now who can talk like that? Like Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is a pretty good promo, but Seth has become a little Willy Wonka-ish lately, a little bit of like a character, which is okay. I got no problem with it, but I don't think he cuts an A+ promo like John Cena does. I think he's good. He may be the best in WWE right now. There's Roman Reigns is effective at playing his part extremely well, but he doesn't cut a promo on the level of someone like John Cena. I think it's cheating if we go Paul Heyman, because Paul Heyman is fully capable of cutting that kind of promo. But outside of that, like if I look, is there anybody who can cut that level of promo right now? I guess you could jump over to AEW and you could say Jericho's pretty good. And you could jump over and you can talk MJF's pretty good on the microphone. But in WWE, can anybody just grab a microphone and kind of control and sway the crowd? I can't. Off the top of my head, I can't think. Like, throw suggestions out and let's talk about it. But I can't, off the top of my head, think anybody who cuts a promo that way. And the last kind of piece of this is my problem with even Cena in theory is that a lot of these matches that I'm looking at towards WrestleMania 39, they're starting to feel predictable. They're starting to feel very generic. And like, if I look at the card, I'm guessing with about 90% accuracy, I'll be able to call this card. And I don't love that. Like, I think WrestleMania should feel very like unpredictable. I get that there's a lot of other cards that are just building towards bigger things, so they're a little bit predictable, but WrestleMania shouldn't be predictable. And when I look at like, is there any world where Austin Theory loses to John Cena? Like, that's not a thing, right? Like, John Cena is here to pass the torch to Austin Theory. There is no world where that doesn't happen. So let's put a check mark next to Austin Theory going into that match. Bianca Belair and Asuka. Is there any world that Bianca Belair doesn't beat Asuka and continue on to be the longest reigning WWE Women's Raw champion of all time? Like, it just feels like that's destiny. That's right up the WWE's playbook on little like graphics they want to put up for Bianca Belair. So I think there's absolutely no chance there, right? Is there any world where Rhea Ripley doesn't beat Charlotte this time? Like, she's lost 2 times before. Are we really under the belief that like the WWE needs the Judgment Day to elevate, to keep Monday Night Raw interesting? So is there any belief, or even if they go to SmackDown, but you can't, at this point, you've invested too much into the Judgment Day to not have Rhea Ripley go over. Like, to me, it just makes sense. Like, Charlotte is a stepping stone for Rhea Ripley to kind of become the next big thing. And so I think that that's pretty predictable to me, right? I think it's pretty predictable that Finn Balor should beat Edge. That now, I'm not positive on that. This is one I'm a little more shaky about. But if you're booking this from a smart long-term perspective, you want the Judgment Day coming out of WrestleMania looking like just straight beast. So that means that Dominic Mysterio should beat Rey Mysterio, and that means that Damian Priest should win whatever gimmick, if it's the Andre the Giant, Memorial Battle Royal. Like, you want, if you are any kind of intelligence and you know that the bloodline is starting, like, you're on the downward slope for the bloodline. Even if Roman wins at WrestleMania, we know that we are on the tail end of this bloodline thing. What better opportunity do you have than to come out of WrestleMania with the Judgment Day looking like this burst of youth and just power and dominance? So it seems to me like there's 5 matches that I feel like are just extremely predictable. And then as I look down the card, I probably with a certain amount of certainty could tell you who's going to win and who's going to lose most of the matches. Now leads me to my final topic of the day here, and that is the question talking about the Usos and Sami Zayn, and them being the biggest story in WWE right now. The question is, could the Usos and Sami Zayn overshadow the main event of Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns? This is a legitimate question and fear that I have moving, the closer we get to WrestleMania. Look, it's telling how SmackDown and Raw are playing out with. It looks the Usos tend to close out the show. Sami Zayn tends to close out the show. That feels like the thing that most people are talking about and most people are invested in. Jey Uso turning on Sami Zayn felt raw. It felt emotional. It felt like the biggest thing in pro wrestling this past week, when really the biggest thing in pro wrestling should have been the face-to-face of Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. So there's no doubt in my mind whatsoever that Sami Zayn and the Usos are the best built up story going into WrestleMania, and they have the most emotional investment, which immediately makes it a candidate to steal the entire weekend. There's a possibility that coming out of WrestleMania weekend, that's what everybody's talking about. There's a possibility that nobody's talking about Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. And to me, that just feels so backwards. It feels like Cody Rhodes has gotten in the way of an organic storyline that felt so good. And it felt like that they were forced to rush the main event of Elimination Chamber when that really, in all reality, should have been the main event of WrestleMania. That is the story we should be telling. And we're not telling it. We're going to tell Cody versus Roman, and now we have to bank on the fact, or we have to, live in this world where there's a good chance that Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and the Usos steal the weekend. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not saying it like it's a bad thing, but I think it's unfortunate for Roman Reigns that he almost has to be pulled away from this story because of an obligation that happens because of the Royal Rumble. Like, there's some tweaking that needs to happen within WWE in this 3-month WrestleMania season. We've got to figure this out so we don't get put into these situations. I mean, the reality is Sami should have won the Royal Rumble. That is the reality. That is the truth. Sami Zayn should have won. The way the Royal Rumble should have been booked was when Rey Mysterio did not come out, Cody wins, quote unquote, the Royal Rumble, and Sami Zayn comes out as the official 30th member, throws Cody out while he's celebrating. That place would have gone absolutely nuts. Now I understand you should have pushed forward all of the other stuff. Pushed forward Sami turning on the bloodline, pushed forward, or pushed back all of that stuff. I get there was some tweaking that had to be done, but they've booked themselves into a problem going into WrestleMania. WWE is the only other thing about WrestleMania I want to say is I still don't understand. We're giving Triple H this pass. I don't know. Are we still giving Triple H a pass? Because I never gave him the pass. But it feels like a lot of people are giving Triple H a pass for the booking. And we look at WrestleMania, and I talked about this last week, but I'm going to double down until this hits home. There are so many names that should be featured on this card that are not on this card that it doesn't make sense. Montez Ford is an absolute star, and you don't have him in a WrestleMania match. And you have MVP keeps teasing this new Hurt Business, but let's stop putting Montez in these fucking groups, and it's time to let Montez go out there and shine as a single star. Angelo Dawkins has come far enough that Angelo Dawkins is ready to ascend starting from the mid card up, but Montez Ford, that dude's a superstar. He's ready to go. He's got everything he needs. Strike while that iron's hot. Coming out of Elimination Chamber, he had, the crowd, people were with him. And you're going to let that cool off again. LA Knight is another one. What are we doing with LA Knight? With he's being used as a puppet with the New Day, or as kind of a pawn in the Gunther and Sheamus and Drew Mac. What are we doing with LA Knight? That guy is a superstar, and this is fucking LA WrestleMania. And they're going to end up throwing him into some last minute match just to get him on the card. And then you have, which is hilarious, you have Otis. Otis is one of the most over people on the roster right now. And you're slow playing this Maximum Male Models thing. But as far as comedy stories go with Chad Gable, Otis, and the Maximum Male Models, you have something there that is extremely entertaining, that could be extremely fun. And I know we're going to get some kind of probably backstage thing at WrestleMania, but it feels like WrestleMania could have really been a coming to life moment for Otis if they gave him the ability to just really showcase at WrestleMania, which, he's not going to get that opportunity. But it feels like when you talk about people that the crowd are ready to just get behind, it's LA Knight, it's Montez Ford, it's Otis. And you look and we give Triple H this pass as none of these people are on the card. And you look at the card and the card feels to me like just the same old, right? Why doesn't this feel like this doesn't feel like a normal WrestleMania to me? And maybe it's because I went to last year's WrestleMania, so my hype level was way up. But to me, this just feels more like a standard mid-year premium live event. I really do. When I look at this card, I feel like there are 4 to 5 matches that you could completely just nix off of the card and have one night of WrestleMania, and then it would be a solid night that everybody talked about being great. But because you have all of these other matches, we're going to have 2 watered down nights of WrestleMania. If I'm booking right now, I'm on the the cutting board. I am cutting off of the main card. Sunday night, Asuka versus Bianca, Omos versus Brock Lesnar, Damage Control, Becky, Lita, and Trish, and Lashley and Bray Wyatt. Get them off of my WrestleMania card. All those matches are fine, but they're not of WrestleMania build and quality to me. None of those. So I think if you cut that down, this card would actually feel special. Like, look at this. If you went Balor and Edge to open the show, first visual we get is Finn Balor coming out as the Demon Judgment Day Finn Balor. This whole new character, completely purple and black and a demon form. Boom, everybody's hyped up, right? So you go Balor Edge. You follow that up with Cena Theory. That one's going to be a banger, right? Then you go Charlotte Rhea for the SmackDown Women's Championship. That's going to be a good match. You go Gunther, Drew, and Sheamus. That's one of those sneaky matches that could be match of the night, right? Immediately jump into Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. That one's going to be fun. You throw in there Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio because we've been invested in this for so long that I think that it's worthy of WrestleMania. And I think that, like I said, coming out of this, you want Balor, Rhea Ripley, and Dominic Mysterio all coming out looking strong. So all 3 of those, that's a very heavy Judgment Day card, but it makes sense, right? Then you go Usos versus KO and Sammy. You have the Usos drop those belts, which then in turn makes Roman Reigns look extremely frustrated going into his main event with Cody Rhodes. And you do Roman versus Cody. And you do 4 hours, one night, Sunday night, that gives about 30 minutes a match. You can play with that where you need more time in some matches and less time in other. But I think that card is a perfect one-night event. When you start having to take these matches and separate them into 2 different cards, it's definitely going to feel watered down. Let's talk a little bit about the news before we get out of here. Vince McMahon was backstage at Monday Night Raw in Boston. Yeah, there's a lot of speculation, a lot of conspiracy theories running around here. There's a lot of people who think Vince McMahon is back in control of booking. And I'm not going to pass judgment because, looking at the card, it does feel very Vince McMahon-ish, but that would be giving too much credit to Triple H in saying that I've said all along, Triple H is just a mini Vince McMahon. I don't think that there was that much difference in the booking of Triple H versus the booking of Vince McMahon. But my question is, if I'm Triple H, right, and Vince McMahon is really back in control of booking, and he's starting to influence the control of the creative, why wouldn't you just come out and say that? Like, your wife left the company. Obviously, she didn't want to be in some form or fashion associated with the company. I know this is what you plan to do if you're Triple H, but I think that to protect myself, I would at least come out and say, no, Vince is definitely has a strong influence. Now, I know he came out and said, like, I definitely listen to Vince, but I'm still in control. But I think if Vince has the level of control that some of these conspiracy theorists think he has, it's in Triple H's best interest to come out and say, like, yeah, I've lost control. I don't have full control like I did a couple months ago, and now we're kind of co-running this show. I guess the bigger question you have to ask is Vince McMahon showing up to Monday Night Raw. It feels a little bit like he's just testing the water. It feels to me like he's going to start showing up here and there just to see if he can kind of normalize himself being around. Now, I know they said he was just back to see John Cena and say, but like, it feels like Vince McMahon has access to see John Cena whenever he wants to. It doesn't have to be at a Monday Night Raw taping for Vince McMahon to see John Cena. So this does feel a little bit like Vince dipping his toe into the pool and trying to see if he can normalize himself being there. Bigger question, and this is just from a rating standpoint, right? Wrestling's all about ratings. It's all about the biggest, like, most shocking story. If Vince McMahon returned, if he just actually was to return and came back and put himself on air as like an on-air authority role and played up being this asshole, played up all of like his indiscretions and all the things he's done, and he just completely laid into this Vince McMahon persona and began just kind of fucking over superstars and really like digging into like this idea that he is like a villain of wrestling, would Vince McMahon not come back and be the biggest heel in all of professional wrestling and the biggest story in all of professional wrestling and just like the only thing that people talk about for the next 365 days if he came out and controlled all of this? Imagine if Vince McMahon came back and he brought like, let's say that he doesn't do it until like MJF's contract is up and Vince McMahon returns with like, MJF is his protege. Would that not be the biggest thing in all of wrestling? Sometimes I wonder, like, if he wants to dip his toe back in, the way to get the crowd to embrace you would to be come straight out and just play it like it's a character. And I think it would blur the lines enough that people would be so fucking confused on what is the real Vince McMahon and what is the character of Vince McMahon that he might actually be able to kind of just transcend all of these indiscretions that he's had. News story number 2, WWE has been asking around about who should be inducted into the Hall of Fame. This is crazy. We're 3 weeks out and we know absolutely nothing about the Hall of Fame. Like, I don't even think that they've sold tickets to like a Hall of Fame ceremony. I don't remember how they did it last year. Was it at the end of SmackDown or was it its own thing? I don't remember how they did the Hall of Fame, but in the past, it's been its own thing. But like, is waiting till the last minute or even doing a surprise Hall of Fame, that could be kind of a fun idea, right? Like, you just show up and you have no idea. Like, wrestling fans love a surprise. So if you just show up to this Hall of Fame ceremony and you're sitting there waiting and it's like, boom, so-and-so's music hits. Boom, so-and-so's music hits. Boom, Batista's music hits. That feels like that could be a little bit fun. That feels like that could be something that like people get behind, is not announcing them weeks in advance and just showing up and here are your Hall of Fame candidates. I also think that realistically, WWE needs to limit the number of inductees every year. And every year it should be one male, one female, one tag team, and one special inductee, and that's it. I think a little bit of the problem right now is that WWE is just literally running out of names to bring in that excite the crowd, right? You're starting to have to like bring people back and bring them in as part of a group or different things like that. I think that like when you have 7 to 8 inductees every year, you're either going to water down your Hall of Fame so much that it feels like everybody's in, or you're reaching so deep into a bag that nobody cares. And so I think that if you limited it to one male and one female and one tag team every year, it would feel that much more special to the people who actually got into the Hall of Fame. The last news story here is I just want to touch on MJF throwing a drink on a child during the AEW Revolution pay-per-view. So if you don't know, MJF during his match grabbed a cup from a fan and poured the liquid onto a child that was sitting in the first row of the arena. This led me to the question, and this is a serious question. When you go to a live wrestling show, are you not an active participant in the production? Because the outrage, there's a group of IWC on the internet who are completely outraged and saying that, like, if this wasn't a plant, this is completely uncalled for. It's completely unnecessary. You can't do this. You need permission to include a kid. Like, all of this stuff is happening. But my question really is, like, when you go to a live wrestling show, especially when you sit in the first row, do you not become an active participant in the production? Now, do you can expect not to get slapped or beat up? Sure, that's fine. But getting some water sprayed on you, like when Triple H used to do the drink the water and spit it into the crowd, if a little bit got on you, were you upset? Or do you know that when you get a first row ticket to wrestling, you're an active participant in the production? Look, when you go to SeaWorld and Shamu does a jump and he splashes and the water hits you, you're an active participant in the show. When you sit in the front row, you become, I guess from what I've read, the little kids seem to be upset by it happening. But like, if my fucking kid got water or soda thrown on them by MJF, this would be the story of their life. They would go back to school a fucking hero. So I don't understand that they're saying, Tony Khan had to run over and give this kid backstage passes and all this different swag, which is fine, great. You can do all that stuff because it cost you nothing. But like, I just don't like this belief that like MJF did something wrong. I'm not on that train. I don't think MJF did anything wrong. But I think the bigger question is this real? Like, or was the kid a plant? Because AEW does a very good job of blurring these lines between what is real and what is staged. Tony Khan does a good job of sometimes making situations seem a little bit real in order to get some media attention, to get the wrestling media talking about it. So I like weigh in on that. Was it real? Was it not real? And does it even matter? The bigger question that I've seen raised on the internet right now is there's this, it doesn't matter who you are. MJF was an indie darling. He was the IWC's guy. Then it never fails that when you get to the top and you reach the top of whatever mountain it is, and that's the AEW mountain for MJF, that the IWC just fucking turns on you. I've seen all week this surge in IWC characters calling out MJF and saying that he has become a caricature of a heel. That he's only using cheap gimmicks at this point to get over and to get heat. What else is MJF supposed to do? Like, wait, what is it that people really, what does the IWC really want from a bad guy? Because if they're not being bad enough, then you say, oh, yeah, they're too vanilla. And then if he goes full on old school heel, you then say, well, he's a caricature. Look, every time I see MJF, which I don't watch a lot of AEW, I'm a little burned out on it lately, but I do try to tune into MJF. I watch the press conference and I see him. He's great. Everything I see with MJF is great. Like it is outside of some of the stuff in WWE that is just big because it has the WWE machine behind it. MJF is great. His press conference post Revolution was great. The way he talks to people, the whole pickle situation, the limping in, the yelling, I'm the best in the world. Like all of that, everything he's doing is exactly what you want a heel to do. And I get there's a certain amount of IWC who don't like it, but I just don't like, what do you want from him at this point? I mean, he transformed his body. He definitely looks like a professional athlete. He looks like a champion. What do you want from him? Pouring drinks on kids he's pushing the limits. He's doing things that other heels won't do. What do you want from him? Especially in AEW, he's doing all the things that AEW claims they want, but the IWC still just kind of turns on him. But that is all the time I have this week for the show. Make sure to tell a friend to listen, like, and subscribe to this channel, the casual community. Make sure to tune into the Nerdy D show as well, where we ask all kinds of random fun questions that we then want your guys' opinions on. Make sure, if you're listening to this and you have not already done it, 100% free, join the Discord. Join the fucking Discord. It's like, I can't tell you enough how much fun this Discord has become. Like, this is what I was searching for. When I made Patreon and was taking donations, I never wanted any of that. I was just trying to create a community. This is it. This is what I want. A place where we can talk about wrestling. We can talk about what's on television. We can talk about Girl Scout cooking. We can talk about all different kinds of things. Whatever we want to talk about, we can talk about it in there. So join the Discord. If you listen to this show and you're not already a part of the Discord, the link will be in the description of this video. All you got to do, make a quick Discord account, join. It's kind of like a chat room, but it's, we moderate it. Everybody in there, I think, is pretty good about moderating. So we don't, there's not like we don't have a dickhead moderator, but we just kind of have respectful people having respectful conversation, right? But as always, I am the Notorious Nerdy D, and I'm about to ring the final bell.
Step in the ring, if you ready, let's go. Ay, casual wrestling community show. You already know, talking WWE. Keep it rolling and hosted by Notorious Nerdy D. Dope show that you gon' find. Tune in cause it's online. Hit 'em with a figure 4 leg lock, power driver or clothesline. We bringing that heat.